Good morning, everyone, and a very warm welcome to Murrayfield and to this QI Hub Masterclass. My name is Ken Miller. I'm Head of Communications at Healthcare Improvement Scotland, and we are one of the partners in the QI Hub. It's fantastic to see so many people here. I know how difficult it is to create time in your calendars and to then commit to it. So thank you for coming today. I know that you'll get a benefit from the session, and I hope you enjoy your time here. We are in a fantastic surrounding, and as I understand it, there might be the chance to go and see the hallowed turf at some point during the course of today. So if you do get that chance, please do take it and worship at the shrine. Now, just before we have Andy up to speak to you, I'm going to introduce Laura Allison. Laura is, just make sure I get your title correct, Laura leads the Scottish Improvement Leaders Programme. Okay. And it is also one of the partners in the Quality Improvement Hub. And Laura's just going to say a little bit about why we've invited Andy to speak to us today. So no more from me. I hope you enjoy your day, and we'll speak to a few of you during the course of today's session. Thank you. Laura.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Ken. Good news for all of you is I've only got a couple of minutes to speak to you. So I've been tasked with explaining why we chose communication as a masterclass and why we chose Andy Bounds to come and deliver that for us. Before I do that, because today is all about you, but before that, just a quick 30 seconds all about me. Today is the last day in my post as the Scottish Improvement Leader Programme Director. No, wrong reaction. You were meant to cheer. Because the bad news is that my new post is Head of Quality Improvement at National Education Services Scotland, so you have far from seen the back of me. And I just want to say, being in this room, I know many of you, and I've been on programmes with you, and it's quite overwhelming to feel the energy and the passion that you have, that you share with quality improvement, using that in your posts. So for me, in my new post, I just want to let you know I have the distribution list for this event. I have all of your email addresses. Please do not spam my email address. I'll be in touch very, very soon. So enough about me, and back to why we're having this day with communication. You could say it's easy to communicate. It's not feeling that easy for me at the moment, I have to say, so I'm quite looking forward to this masterclass. But it isn't always easy to communicate well, and the people we work with have got different agendas, different time constraints, and it therefore makes communication a critical skill to master. So that's why we've invited Andy up. Andy he owns his own consultancy practice. He works across the world with large organisations, helping them to improve their communication techniques. He's the author of 3 books, international bestsellers, one of them kept off the Amazon #1 spot only by Harry Potter. What is that about, Andy? I first heard Andy speak in 2008 in what I can only describe as a slightly dodgy Dundee hotel. And at that point in time, it was part of the Managers Development Network. And I'm always on the lookout for learning experiences that are worthwhile, that we can share with other people. And that was one of those experiences that had stayed with me. I went and bought one of your books. My husband has 2 of the books on my Christmas list for this year. And you probably know from my Twitter account that I retweet Andy's Tuesday tips, which he puts every Tuesday, one simple little tip out, and it's just incredibly helpful. Andy's style is going to be interactive, energetic, pacey, and fun. So I really hope that you enjoy today, and I've got great pleasure in inviting Andy to the stage.
Hey, good morning, everyone. So, a quick question for you. Have any of you ever been to a meeting or a conference call that was rubbish? Hey, yeah, there we go. Has anyone been to one that wasn't? Have any of you been to a presentation maybe and the presenter has got some very, very wordy slides and you've watched the presenter just read them out and you've looked at the presenter and thought, you know what, I'm actually losing the will for you to live. Yeah? I want to live, not so sure about you. It's very hard to get communication right. Yeah, it's really, really hard to get communication right, but in my experience, it's pretty much the most important thing to get right because you do it all the time. In fact, the only time communication isn't relevant is when you sit on your own and think of something on your own that you never tell anybody about, ever. Well, that doesn't happen very much. Yeah? So there's all sorts of research about how many communications you have in a day, but I mean, you could choose your number. A safe number, I'm going to say, is 100. You probably have a few chats, you probably send a few emails, you go to a couple of meetings, maybe see a couple of presentations. So we do loads of this stuff all the time, and we might as well be ace at it. You know, doesn't save you any time if you're not very good at it. You might as well be ace at it. I was talking to a guy recently and told him how to get out of meetings he didn't want to go to. He started using a couple of techniques and he said 12 hours a week. I thought that was okay. That's a third of his working life. If you want it in a year, that's 4 months a year. So there's big time savings you can make. But you know one of the great things about communication, if you want to master it from a work point of view, crack on, it's dead useful. Sorry, I'm from Liverpool, so I say things like dead useful and stuff like that. But it's really good at home. So you can get your kids to go to bed. I've got a teenage boy, he tidies his bedroom. See a couple of people, oh right, that's why I'm here. Now the day looks useful. So what we're going to do is we go through things today. I'm going to give you all sorts of tips and techniques, but as often as possible, I'm going to get you to have a chat with your neighbour about it, chat with your table about it, make it real for you. So if I tell you there are 3 steps of creating a communication, if I show you what the 3 are, it then seems very sensible for me just for you to have a chat as a table or as a pair, as a couple, and think, how can I apply these 3 steps to something I'm doing tomorrow? Yeah, so I've no interest, if you like, in just teaching you something that you go, that's interesting, I'll never use it. That just seems pointless. So with your permission, I'd like our goal to be that I give you some very simple stuff that if we finish at 4 o'clock today, you could use at 1 minute past 4 if you wanted to. Is that all right? Yeah. What would be a good number of things you could use? Should we aim for 3 each? Doesn't sound very many, 3. We've got 6 hours. Hopefully that'll be just we need to somehow spawn one every 2 hours. So we can get like 3 useful techniques each. Do the maths, that's about 450, 500 new amazing things happening. If we get to the dizzy heights of 5 or 6 each, amazing. Yeah. The coffee here is quite strong, by the way. That's why I'm having a great time. Okay, right, cool. So if you're going to be really good at communicating, one of the things that's important is you're able to think on your feet. And the best way to see how good you are at thinking on your feet is to give you a little exercise on your feet. So if I can ask you, please, I want you to pair off with someone. This only works in 2s, and all of you stand up. So stand up and find a partner. Okay, if you haven't got a partner, you're going to have to move and find one. Okay, this just doesn't work, this exercise in 3s, it needs to be 2s. Go and find a partner. I think you've got an integration coming up quite soon, haven't you? You can start integrating now. Go and meet someone. Now, decide which of the 2 of you is going to be person 1. Very important who's person 1. Now, person 1s, can I ask you to put your hands up nice and high, please, so I can see all the person 1s? Right, okay, put your hands out. I think we'll have person 2 going first. That says some of you right, doesn't it? Your 1 means I don't have to do anything. Right, person 2, you're going first. What I want you to do is this. I want you to try and score 25. You're aiming for 25 in 20 seconds, person 2. You're aiming for 25 in 20 seconds. Person 1 is going to count to see if you manage to get 25. If you get 25, keep going. And all I want you to do, person 2, is point or touch things in the room and shout out loud what you're pointing or touching. So if I was to touch my shirt, I might go shirt, and I'll touch my head and say head, then touch my nose and say nose. I might point at the ceiling and say ceiling. So it's like shirt, head, nose, ceiling. So you try to do 25 in 20 seconds, person 2. You ready? Go! Right, so quick hands up. Anyone score 15 or more? 15 or more? Yes, boom. Keep your hands up. 20 or more? Woo. Anyone gets the magic 25? Oh, a couple. 30? Wow, well done. So there's a few people with their hands up feeling quite smug and everyone else is looking at them with utter hatred. So person 1, it's your go now, but obviously you do the same thing as person 2. So it's too easy for you. We just need to put a little tweak in for you. So this is what you're going to do. You touch the first thing like your shirt, but don't say anything. But then when you touch or point to the second thing, you have to say what the first thing was. So you might point to your shirt, say nothing, point to your head and say shirt, point to your ceiling and say head, point to your nose and say... You've only got 20 seconds, go! Now, I don't know how that felt down there, but it looked pretty good from up here. Now, where were we? Did anyone get to 30? 2? Yeah, not particularly easy. That exercise. I remember if you do my job, if you come up with an exercise like this, what happens is there are various rules if you do an exercise like this. And one of them is there has to be a point to it, so I'll explain the point in a second. Another one is you have to explain how to do the exercise so people understand it. And you all understood it, so I'll explain it okay. But the first time I did it, I obviously didn't understand it. I didn't explain it properly. Because one of the guys who was supposed to be pointing at thing 2 and saying what thing 1 was, he was so confused by the instructions, he just didn't do anything. Just stood there, frozen, and then started visibly crumpling. And then after about 15 seconds, he pointed at the floor and went, floor! Oh, God, you've not understood this at all, have you? So, you did the exercise, you did very well. If you did it again, you might score 5 more than you did last time. If you do it again, you might get the dizzy heights to 34, 35. You may somehow become a communication pointy ninja and get to 40, but there'll be a glass ceiling beyond which you can't go. Okay? The most I've ever seen anybody do is 174. 174. Because what happened is this. I told you to point or touch things, but I didn't say everything had to be different. Yeah? So you could have just done point at your shoes and gone shoe, 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 shoe. Other guys who went second couldn't have pointed at the left shoe and then gone to the right shoe and gone shoe, 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 shoe. Oh, you're so polite. I did this with a bank a while ago, and the person who hired me for the bank said, right, Andy, this is the leadership, guys. Everyone's important, but that guy over there is really important. All right? So what happens, every time you make a joke, everyone in the room looks at him. If he laughs, they laugh. He's one of those, all right? So, okay, that's fine. So I did this exercise and then said, you know, shoo, 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 shoo. And this guy said, quietly, but just loud enough so everybody could hear, this important guy leant to his neighbour and said, well, that's just rubbish. I thought, oh no, I've lost the whole room, got another 6 hours to go. Now, why do we do this? Because when you communicate, you follow the rules, all right? And you do really well. But there's a glass ceiling above which you can't get. Yep. So you do a meeting and you think, I don't prepare much for meetings, I'm going to prepare better for meetings. And yeah, it goes better, but it still takes an hour, and it was still a bit boring sometimes, and it was still pretty similar to last week's. And so even though you're busting guts, there's this glass ceiling, we just can't smash it. Yeah. But if you know how to do shoo, 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 shoo communicating, what happens is you can achieve in 10 minutes what you couldn't in an hour. You know, I saw someone do a presentation once. It was going to be 54 slides. I talked to her about what she wanted to achieve. We had a couple of rewrites of it, and it ended up being 4 slides. And when it was 4 slides long, it took 5 minutes, and everyone did what she wanted. And so that's what I mean by shoo, shoo, shoo presenting, because she was following the rules, but she didn't know how to think laterally within the rules. And that's what today's all about. You'll still follow the rules. If you have a meeting, it'll still be in the diary, it'll still take place in a room, you'll still invite people to it, you'll still start it off okay, but it'll just smash through because there are better ways to do it. Is that all right? Will that be useful? I better just check, yeah? Is this what you're expecting today will be? You didn't think it was Excel Intermediate or something? Are we cool? Right, fine. So, if you want to be good at communicating, the first step is to make sure you can see things from an audience's point of view, if you can understand. It's brilliant, the scene set that we had before, that everyone else has different priorities to you, different timescales to you. So the secret to being good at communicating is to get them to see things from their point of view. So what I'd like to do is an exercise. I want to see how good you are at seeing things from an audience's point of view. So if you can get yourselves pen and paper or however you like to make notes, and I'm going to deliver a presentation for you. And I'd like you, please, to write down all the things you like and you don't like. So maybe do it in 2 columns. Stuff I like on the left, stuff I hated on the right. And after you've made your notes, what's going to happen is you're going to have a quick exercise with your neighbour to compare what you wrote. So I just want you to look at your neighbour a second and look at their eyes and think, I'm going to write more things than you do. I'm going to get way more than you do. You look like someone who'd only get 7 or 8. I'm busting out double figures here. This exercise is going to take about a minute, so you have to write pretty quickly. Okay? Right, is everybody ready? Happy with this? So if you like it, write it on the left. If you don't like it, put it on the right. And it can be anything at all. It can be my voice, my body language, what the slide looks like, the words I say, anything at all. Right, so here we go. Good morning, everyone. Start writing. You're probably impressed already. That's on the left-hand side, yeah? Good morning, everyone. My name's Andy Bounds. It's great to be with you today. Thank you so much for sparing your time to see me. I know that some of you know me very well and some of you don't know me at all. So what I wanted to do is give a bit of background as to how I came to be here today, why I'm here today, and also a little bit about what we're going to talk about. So I'm going to put a slide up here. The title of the slide is About Us. Let me give you a bit of background about my company. We were founded in 1922, so we've been around for a long time. We have 94 offices throughout the world. Keep writing, keep writing. Beat your neighbour, beat your neighbour. We have 72,000 staff. And another 7,000 part-time staff. So if you look at those numbers at the top 3, we actually have an internal target, which is what we call 100, 100, 100. So founded in 1922, by 2022, that'll be our 100th birthday, we want 100 offices and we want 100,000 staff. So that's one of our internal targets there. We have very strong technical expertise. We know stuff that other people just don't, and we're going to talk to you about that later on. We've grown a lot over the last 5 years, so we're at a time of growth as an organisation. We'll talk about that later on as well. And we're a very committed training office. We've got IIP, and there was lots of paperwork, a bit of a ball ache to get, to be honest, to get IIP done. But once we had it, you could really see how the team started developing. And so we always like people to think of us as an IIP organisation. Now, I talked about having 94 offices. The next slide I'm going to show you is a map of all of the... Right, okay, I'll stop now. Can you have a quick chat with your neighbour? Compare notes. Did you like it? Did you not? Did you write similar things, different things? And frankly, did you write more than them? Go. Right, ladies and gents. Right, let me stop that there. Because it's getting too hurtful, to be honest. That's why I want to stop. Right, overall, did you like it or not? Well, that's a relief, actually. If you thought this was good, this is going to be a long day for you. Right, so what didn't you like? Shout some stuff out. Didn't know what it was about? Yeah, what else? Boring. Boring. I wonder when that word would come out. What else? Say again? Yes, insulted other people. My head kept moving. I didn't even know that one. That's quite cool. Sorry. Monotone. I wasn't looking at the audience. I was doing a PowerPoint stance. Very often people use PowerPoint as a speaker prompt.
I couldn't figure out if I was going to be bothered listening or not.
Love this. I couldn't be... What was it? I couldn't figure out if I could be bothered listening or not. Now, that's quite alarming, because I've got another 25 slides just like that. Yeah? In fact, sometimes people, the slides here are very wordy. Basically, did any of you notice I kind of read the slides out? Yeah. Seen presentations like this? Yeah? Have we done that? And sometimes people have slides like this, and they print them out in advance and give them to the audience in advance. You could have had this. So you could have read through, and has anyone done the mental arithmetic? Andy spent 2 minutes on this one slide. There are 25 to go. That means... Okay, let's have a chat about this side of the room. So tell me some things that haven't been said yet. What else didn't you like? Yeah, the abbreviations, the IIP jargon. What was yours? Yeah, blowing my own trumpet. Oh, I'm really good and everybody else is rubbish. Yeah, good. These guys? Anything else? Yeah, it didn't tell you a story. That's a good point. We'll come back to stories later. Anything else? Very fast. Yeah, very fast. Body language poor.
I think you were downloading. The way you turn news from you, downloading your communication
Yeah, that's a good word for it. It was a download, wasn't it? I wouldn't really call this a communication. I'd call it a rant. Yeah, it's a bit of a rant.
And you're also quite an extrovert, so being an introvert, I'm feeling that you're not talking to me.
Yeah, good call. So this lady's saying, so I'm acting in a very extrovert way, but she's quite introvert, so I don't feel like I'm being spoken to. I mean, this is like ninja level response. People normally say, I didn't like the blue on the slides. And you'll say, like, it's really good. I mean, let me ask the ladies in the room a question. Right, ladies, listen up to this. This question is just for you. If this is a game show, men, you're walled. You're not in this round. You're in the next round, but not this one. Ladies, I want to share with you, I mean, you know more about medicine than I ever could with who you work for, but I want to share with you what I believe is a medical fact. Now, if this medical fact is correct, I'd like you to say yes. And if you think it's really true, say yes very loudly. All right, ladies, are you happy with this? That's all you've got to do. So I'm going to say this fact. If you agree, just go yes, nice and loud. Right, medical research suggests that a man's brain can only focus on one thing at once. Yes! Look at the men. What? Right, men. You're now back in play. Ladies, you're wally for this one. Gentlemen, as I was reading out these slides, did any of you think, Andy, will you stop talking so I can read these slides in peace? The other day, I was ironing, and my wife asked me a question while I was ironing. I mean, houses have burned down for less. You know, I was trying to answer, I'd only put the iron to my ear thinking it was the phone. Okay, so there's a thing that often happens with things like PowerPoint. People put PowerPoint up and then wonder why everyone looks at the slide. Yeah, or they give a handout and think, stop looking at the handout. What would be a really good way to stop people looking at a handout? Don't give them the handout. If you want to know the best thing about PowerPoint, if you go to PowerPoint, if you happen to use PowerPoint, if you push the B button, it blanks the screen. What a day we're having here, ladies and gentlemen. Remember where you were when you heard that? Now, if ever you have me back on the advanced course, I'll show you how to get it back. No, you just push B again. It's not that advanced. You could push W and it whites the screen. I know! Another problem that can happen with PowerPoint is sometimes, do you have your own pet hatred about certain communications? The one I can't abide is when someone's doing a talk and they have some slides and then they say, oh no, so you don't need this slide, you don't need this slide. And I think, why are you editing this in front of me? Do it at your desk, it's so rude. It's rude. If you do that, stop doing it. It's rude. It's such disrespect for your audience to say, I couldn't even be bothered thinking about you before I rocked up here today. But now you're here, that makes me think you probably don't care about it. It's just so rude. But if you're in the middle of a or let's say the audience has been super engaged and you've got 5 slides to go, and it's not your fault, the slides are relevant, but you'd like to jump the 5 slides and we don't know how, because you can't, because PowerPoint's a linear thing. Well, it isn't. Check this out. I'm currently on a certain slide. If I wanted to go to, let's say, slide number 12, and I'm currently on slide number 2 or 3. If I just go to the keyboard, if I press 1 and 2 and enter, it jumps straight to slide 12. God, that was actually a gasp from you lot. It's not. It's actually not that amazing. But now just pop back to where I was before. Any particular slide you want to look at? I can just jump. Now, the whole day is not going to be about presentations at all. It's certainly not going to be about slides. It's not a PowerPoint day. But there are certain things that get in the way of good presentations. Having very wordy slides is a bad idea because people just read them. Yep. Not knowing about the B button is a bad idea because it means people look at them instead of you. Not knowing how to jump slides means that you have to follow the order you thought about when you prepared it in your bedroom. Well, things can go different sometimes. Yeah. Right, so the title of this slide, by the way, was called About Us. Who thinks that's a riveting title? Have you ever noticed in work, in business, in life really, a lot of titles at work aren't particularly interesting. Has anybody ever been to a meeting called Update? And when you woke up on the morning of your update meeting, was the first thing you thought, it's today? Has anybody ever received an email called FYI? and thought, has something come for my information? Or sometimes we have a review. And the word review means we just review the past. So we have a Q2 review and we talk all about everything that happened in Q2, and we don't even for one sentence say what's happening in Q3. So it becomes all retrospective because of the word review. Does this make sense? You have a staff review, you just talk about what people did last year. Put a little P in front of it, call it a preview, and say the purpose of this is to, yes, talk about last year, but much more importantly, to help set you up for success for next year. Yeah? Titles have a big impact on anything. I always think FYI stands for fill your inbox. I'm just so distracted, I was just scratching my head here. I don't have a great deal of hair, as in none. And so it was so distracting. Someone said to me the other day, made a comment about me being bald, and I'm really comfortable being bald. It's really good. If I'm going out with my wife, she might spend a few minutes, hours, whatever, getting ready. This is what I look like, whatever I do. You know, so there's no point spending any time on it, you know, it's this. I'll just go out like this, I think. I won't do my hair today. And someone made a comment about me being bald, so I said, I have no problem about jokes about bald, but that's not very clever, you're bald. Can't you think of something funnier than that? And he goes, yes, I can actually. And he said something, and as I look around the room, there's a few other gentlemen who might want to consider this as well. He said, when you're washing your face in the morning, how do you know when to stop? That's a really good question. Where's the dirty sheen stuff? Okay, so I may be getting a bit distracted. Let's get back to this. So there's a strange phenomenon in communication, which is this. What we hate, we do. In other words, what we hate somebody doing to us when they communicate to us, we often do to other people. Have a look at the right-hand column, the stuff you said, I hated it when Andy did this, and ask yourself, hand on heart, do I do any of them? What advice do you think I'm about to give you? Yeah, stop doing that. Yeah? Stop doing that. If you want to talk about it in a lovely corporate way, we can say we can learn from this experience and coach ourselves through it. If you want to learn from it another way, it's a bit ridiculous to do to other people what you hate them doing to you. But this strange phenomenon, what we hate, we do. I've heard many people say things like I'll use an example with presentations and an example with meetings just to make sure this makes sense. I hate it when I go to a presentation and see somebody read out slides. I hate that. But when I'm presenting, I need some speaker notes. So I'll put them on the slide. Yeah, so what we do, what we hate, we do. Or we go to a meeting and the person chairing the meeting, they go, and this is what's happening, this is what's happening, this is what's happening. And you think, why am I even here? How does this affect me at all? You haven't made any effort to engage me in this. You're just talking about, you're having the download, you're just ranting on. And then we go from that meeting to another meeting where we say to them, right, listen up, this is what's going on, and we don't engage them. I have asked thousands of people over the years 2 questions. Number 1, what do you think the communication is like here? And number 2, given what you've just said, do you think you're probably better or worse than average? Pretty much every answer that everyone gives is the same. What do you think the communication is like here? Most people say, it's all right, it's not that good, it's all right. Yeah. And then the second answer, do you think you're better than average, worse than average? You know what everyone says? I'm probably better than average. Okay. Well, that's mathematically impossible. Yeah. Half the people in the world would be below average. That's what an average is. So if you think about what the communication's like here, the average communication, probably you're contributing to it in some way. So let's give up, we wanted 3 quick wins in our 6 hours. We got 6 hours for 3 wins. Let's see if we can get one already. Have a look down the right-hand column that you wrote, things that you hated me doing to you, and circle any that you think you do, because there's your first win. Stop doing that. Now, the solution's quite straightforward, really. If you thought, I hated Andy's wordy slides, I use wordy slides. Well, the solution's quite straightforward. What is it? Yeah, pictures, or less words. Yeah, press the delete button more. And sometimes people say, but I need speaker prompts, and say, okay, well, print them out, the detailed version, so you've got speaker prompts. But don't put your speaker prompts on the shiny thing the audience is looking at. Did you notice, I love this word download. I think that was a really, oh, good grief. If I do this, that's a mate, right, okay. Well, I might play with that, that's really good. I love this word download that you said before. Did you notice how I spoke non-stop and there was no sign of me abating? at all. Yeah? If you think, do you know what, sometimes when I present, nobody ever says anything. I hated it when Andy did that. What a really good way to help yourself become more interactive as a presenter, as a speaker, or let's say you're having a meeting and you're saying your thing in the meeting, so not a big corporate presentation, you're just saying your thing. A good way to become more interactive is you don't just prepare what you want to say, you also prepare what you're going to ask. So you think of good questions that you can ask. Because if you think of good questions you can ask, you're not just preparing my rant, you're preparing what I'm going to say, but also what I'm going to ask to get them talking as well. So let's say you're doing a quick, obviously we love the word update on what's happening in a particular initiative. You could start off with a question. So there's a few things I want to share with you today, but before I tell you anything, is there anything in particular you'd like us to cover today? Is there anything in particular you want to know? You could make it even more interesting and say, what do you think is the greatest benefit this initiative will bring? How do you think it will help us? How do you think it will help patients? And so what you're doing is you're not preparing for a one-way rant, you're preparing for a two-way chat. But you're not going to get a two-way chat if you only prepare what you're going to say. Does that make sense? Am I explaining this okay? And the final thing I want to talk about this, let's say you've circled something that you're going to do differently. The final thing I want you to do is this. Think about what you've got coming up in your diary and think, what is the first communication you can apply that thing to you've just circled? All right? So make it really real. So let's say you're going to ask engaging questions. That's a lovely idea. What's the first communication? If you think, well, I've got that team meeting tomorrow morning, could you please write down next to the circle, team meeting tomorrow morning? Because when you just circle an idea, this is what I'm going to do, it's just a lovely idea. But when you're saying, I'm first going to do it then, that's when it becomes an action. And now, if you don't mind, I'd just like you to quickly go back in groups of 2 or 3. If I could be so bold, not a group of 4. If ever you have a group of 4, someone always does nothing. All right? And looking around, I think we'll work out who that is. So go in groups of 2 or 3, and very simply, I want you to share your action that you've just circled with your neighbour. So you might say, I'm going to ask more questions starting in our team meeting tomorrow. Your neighbour might say, oh, what do you mean? Tell me about that. What are you thinking? Why have you chosen that? So have a chat, have a proper chat, rather than just going, oh, are you? Yeah, I'll give you a couple of minutes and I want you to really fine-tune these actions so they make total sense to you. 2 minutes, have fun, go. Okay, ladies and gents, let me stop you there. So we don't want to set our sights too high here, but have you all got more than nothing written down? More than nothing? There we go. The thing that you've circled and the thing you've just spoken about, do you think that will be relatively straightforward to do? Will you be all right with that? Yeah? And it should help? Yeah? I always think my favourite things in life are things that have a massive impact for not doing much work. I'm not into this no pain, no gain rubbish. I want a massive gain with no pain. Yeah? So things like preparing a couple of questions is really not that much work, really, for the impact it has. I'm currently learning how to play tennis. I'm terrible at it. Just awful. I can't even describe how bad I am. It's just rubbish. And I've got a tennis coach, and he's trying to teach me how to serve. And I say to him, I don't really like serving. Can't we just hit it? And he goes, no, you need the serve. I said, but can't be bothered. Can't just hit it. And he goes, no, you've got to learn the serve. I said, why? He goes, because the serve is the only point in tennis where you're not responding to what your opponent does. So what do you mean? He goes, well, if your opponent hits it over there, you have to run over there, don't you? If they hit it over there, you have to run over there, don't you? But with the serve, you have total control. Well, you will have in a few years. And I said, right, okay, that makes perfect sense to me. And I thought, that's a great analogy for communication. When you chair a meeting, and it's your meeting, the first words out of your mouth are like the serve in a game of tennis. Because it's the only time you're not responding to everybody else. So if you say something like, I've been looking forward to this meeting, they might say, so have I. They might say, well, I've not. But whatever they say, you need to respond to it. But your opening sentence, you have total control. And just as a tennis person has to practice their serve, and brilliant tennis people have brilliant serves, if you want to be a really good communicator, practice your opening sentence. Which of these two conference calls sounds better? Hello everyone, welcome to today's conference call. We'll be on the phone for an hour because we always are, and we'll have the same agenda item that we always do, and we'll probably overrun like we always do. Or, hello everyone, welcome to the conference call. The reason we're having it is because we need a swift decision on X and Y, and as soon as we've got that decision, we'll finish. Your meetings are your fault. Your diary is your fault. Your communications are your fault. The impact your opening sentence has is your fault. You're going to say something, so it might as well be ace. So if you were going to prepare very little at all in your life, I would strongly urge you to practice the start of stuff. Yeah, so running a meeting, practice your first serve. Think how you're going to kick it off. Some of you will have recurring weekly things like update meetings. That's really hard sometimes to have an interesting start. But your meetings are your fault. If you don't try and make it interesting, why should they? So it's up to us. It's our responsibility. Is this all right? You happy with what I'm saying here? Yeah? Because whatever the average communication is, probably we're quite similar to average because most people are, kind of. All right? So probably we start meetings kind of like everybody else does. So we can raise our game here. Someone told me they got invited to a meeting last week and it wasn't called meeting, it said swift decision. So we need a swift decision on this. I'm only putting in 10 minutes. I've attached what I think are the advantages and disadvantages. Have a look at that, formulate your views. If you've got any other advantages and disadvantages, let me know them in advance. Be here at 10 o'clock, we'll be decided by 10 past. And I thought, what a brilliant first serve that is. Let's have a quick smile break.